Welcome to a special, unscheduled surprise episode of Paranormal Patterns on Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight we'll be talking about whatever comes to mind within the paranormal. As always, you can find all links to episodes and social media and ways to contact me and support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And also you can find there the links to the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can listen to amazing shows 24/7. Not just myself, but many others. So definitely recommend checking that out and listening when you can. So I've been just thinking about things, and we had a different show planned for tonight, but that didn't work out, which is totally fine. And so we're just doing this sort of just going with whatever's on our minds here. It's going to be a listener call-in show as well. So, and we'll go for a while, but trying to think of what's been on my mind. Really, I've been focused a lot on the ideas of what if there was this I guess I'll go into sort of what I've been busy with lately. So I have a science fiction paranormal novel that I've been working on for a while, and it involves something coming from space that is basically just, as far as everyone knows, just this really weird energy field. And once it comes to Earth, the closer it gets to the planet, the barriers between all the different realms or levels of reality start to break down. And so that's been fun writing that. I've taken a little break, but and I did that. It's amazing how ideas and things like that come, because I had to take a break. I got to a point where I needed to stop for a little while, and I had this feeling like I needed to listen to a Stephen King novel again that I read years ago, and that is the Tommyknockers. And it's an amazing. That book starts with an amazing concept where there is this alien spaceship that has been buried under in the earth for possibly hundreds of thousands of years. And of course, with it being Stephen King as the person that finds the ship, as they start digging it up and exposing more and more of it, just chaos starts happening in there to them and around their town. But and apparently, I kind of figured out why I needed to read that book, because it gave me an idea for something I wanted to do with my own story. And I won't go into that, but it's just amazing to me where ideas come from and how what made me want to listen to that book again. And I think it was something, I don't know if it was something in my own mind or something else that needed that to form an idea, or to sort of go with an idea that I had, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. And that listening to that book made me decide to go through with it. And so I've been working on that lately. Of course, I check on I check online for news about anything weird, paranormal stuff here and there, and including the whole UFO community subject, and UAP and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I could comment on that for a little bit here. I've gotten to the point now where it seems like there's so much propaganda, and or there's so many people that have certain narratives and certain ideas about how what aliens are, how they act, where they're from, all these things, and they seem very sure of their views on everything. And And of course, that's to each their own. I'm not saying that they can't think like that or talk like that, but to me, uh, with everything I've read and heard and some of the things I've experienced, uh, I don't think there is any one answer to what's out there or um, any one unified agenda by that is held by all other beings out there, aliens or whatever you want to call them. Uh, it seems like there's just many. There's some encounters people have are positive, others are neutral, others are negative, and yet you hear people talk about how all the aliens are friendly and they're looking out for us. Or you hear the opposite, where they're all evil and don't and they want to destroy us all. And I don't think any of those are entirely the complete answer to all this. So that's been my point of view for a little while, more than a little while now. And I just because of my own experiences that I've had what were positive experiences with blue lights that I saw in the sky that also somehow I got a sense of a presence from them. And even in one case, in the first encounter, I got a message from them when I was sort of thinking. I was really just thinking towards them. Excuse me. One moment here. Okay, so and that was just a quick hello in response to me saying hello to them. And it was so fast I almost missed it because it wasn't really a spoken word. It was more of just that thought of that idea, which is really hard to explain in words. But so I've had those, and they were all very much just positive and amazing because these blue lights in the last case, but this blue light that I saw was able to just vanish and reappear. It was able to change colors and sort of change shape uh, at will. Not to where it became a lot bigger or a lot smaller, but just almost like it was pulsing or glowing in different shapes. Um, and then the last encounter I had, there was two of them, which is really amazing to me, and I got a sense of two presences from them. And so those are basically my positive experiences I had with that. But of course, then there is this other experience I had that I've talked about before, where, and again, just to throw this out there, to me, alien just means unknown. I don't know what is out there or who's out there or what they should be called by, what names I should use for them. But when I think of alien, I just think of unknown or unfamiliar. And so because I don't know what they are, but the experience I had where several years ago, where I went to sleep one late night, early morning, and I was at the time I was sleeping on a couch. I still have, but I was at the time I had just had a couch to sleep on, which is fine. It was a nice big couch, and I woke up because I realized I was not on the couch anymore. I could feel a hard, flat surface beneath me, and I could see around me a little bit. I couldn't move except for my eyes. And I could see I was in a room with blue walls and white cabinets or shelves with electronics in them. And but there was no screens. It was just like it was devices, but no screens on them. And but I couldn't move. And when I looked up, there was just the ceiling was all light. It was either all one light or it was just the light was so bright that it was just appearing as one light. And there were these two or three gray blurs that were moving around the bed table, whatever it was that I was on, and I couldn't make out anything more than the fact that they were just these blurs. And I was trying to move and I couldn't, and I was starting to get more and more freaked out. And I heard my parents' voices off to one side telling me everything was okay. But they had no emotion. And I looked over there and there was just two more blurs. And I never had excuse me, I've never had any. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat here. Sonia asks, have you ever had a surgery? I had one when I was a kid to have my tonsils removed, but the place that I was in did not look like that. It was a regular hospital with just. It was a regular. I remember that much. It was different from wherever this was, and I was looking up because I could see something coming down from the ceiling. And it was like a robotic arm kind of thing. Not like a human-shaped one, but just a robotic extension. And as it came down, I saw it had a needle at the end of it. And, of course, it was heading for my head. And so I kept on trying to move for more and more, and it just wasn't working. I could not move at all to get out of there, to get out of the way. And so, yeah, nope, no Neuralink. I just see that in chat as well. Nope. And this was, like I said, 12, 13 years ago now. But and eventually this needle came down and it touched my left eye. And that's when I completely freaked out and everything went black and I woke up. I basically passed out from whatever that was. I don't know what it was. And then I woke up. And after that, I didn't realize this at the time, but until I was talking to some friends after, and this was like years after. But after that, I started getting eye strain and light sensitivity in my eyes that I never had before. I was born legally blind, but never had these other issues before until then. I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, I never had these issues before, so it was really odd that this, whatever this was, happened, and I don't automatically go with it being an alien abduction so much. I just don't know what it was either. But either way, whatever it was, there may have been some kind of contact, and it may have had effects on me that are still continuing to this day. That's why I can only do so many shows per week, like a handful of shows that I can do per week, because my eyes get worn out really easily. So yeah, that's basically my experience with anything that could possibly be considered alien. And so that's why I think I want to bring this up, is because to me, seeing lights in the sky, to me, I would never just automatically assume that's anything other than people, machines made by people. Because there's so many machines that people have made now that are out there, satellites and planes and helicopters and drones and whatever else. And so it has to be, to me, for it to be interesting, there has to be more to it than just sightings of lights, one or more lights, or even sightings of a craft of any kind. because who knows what's out there as far as private companies and military and government and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean I don't believe that there's also other stuff out there. It's just I think it's really hard to tell unless there's more to an experience than just seeing something in the sky. So yeah, that's my thought on all of sort of that side of things. And but yeah, so that's been on my mind a lot because of course the last 3 months, recent events and everything with people seeing things in the sky and having it be drones here and there, and some people thinking the drones are aliens and alien craft or whatever. I have no idea because I wasn't there. And if it's just lights, then like I said, I'm going to figure it's just craft from people. And yeah, it's definitely I tried doing for a while. I think this was before some of the people that are here were in the chat were around much at the time, but I tried doing shows 6 days a week and I loved it. But it was just too much. I was basically wrecking myself and giving myself even more. I mean, I always have headaches every day, but giving myself more headaches and than even before. So that was not fun. It was fun to do the shows, but not fun to go through all that extra pain because of it. So, but yeah, that's so I did try that for a while, and if I could, I would do that still. But I have to just work. The thing I try to do is figure out how much I can do and do as much as I can, and that's all I can do. And I'm okay with that. I'm not happy with that, but I can be okay with that. And that's why one of the reasons why I really appreciate the shows I've been doing with Jen, the Arcane Observer, because those shows they don't take a ton of research to do because we mainly just talk about we pick a topic and then go with what we already know, and I'll find an article or two and I'll reference that. But that's why I love those shows. It makes it so much easier to do those shows when I have help like that. In the chat there, Sonia says, "Have you ever gone to New Orleans?" No, I want to someday. But yeah, that's I do want to go someday. I know that's supposed to be one of the most paranormally active areas. I mean, this is one of many areas in the country that's supposed to really be really active. But we have a request to talk here from someone here. I think I know this guy a little bit. Let me invite him in. We'll go from there. So, welcome. Thank you for. Oops. Let me see if it worked or not. Doesn't say it worked yet. I think. Oh. Let me see here. We have and we have someone else that arrived. So I'm gonna bring in another person here. Hopefully you're all okay with having a couple people on at the same time. But first of all, welcome Ricky, and then also welcome to Joey. Let me get you onto the stage, invite you on, and there.
Hey, James.
Hello.
Can you hear me all right? I'm actually driving, but I'm on Bluetooth.
You're okay so far? And
okay, great.
Yeah, and we're kind of just decided. I hope you don't mind to do an open format, call in, anything goes kind of show, because I
No,
didn't,
it's totally fine, bro. I apologize for not getting back to your message, but I had some extra little tasks that got thrown on me, so I do apologize because we had an 8 p.m. Date, so I do apologize for that. But no, go ahead.
Oh, it's no problem at all, and you're welcome to stay here and talk, or if you want to, we can reschedule and do that another time.
I'm driving. Let's hang out.
Okay. So also, I want to because Ricky volunteered to join me as well. Ricky, if you're there and you want to say hi, you're welcome to do that.
Hey, Ricky. Sorry to interrupt you, bro.
No problem. But yeah, looking at the chat here, and let's see. I don't hear anything from Ricky yet. So Ricky, whenever you're ready, you can just chime in. But yeah, so uh, Joey, thank you again for being here. And if you want to go into your experience here, you're welcome to.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Let's. You don't have any background feed from when you're talking from my radio, do you?
No, nope. I just hear the sound of, I can tell you're in the car, but it's not like there's no radio. It's just air or whatever it is.
So sure, let's start there. So I briefly described it to you. Well, kind of briefly described it to you the other day. I have had plenty of different types of experience, but one in particular has stuck with me for most of my life because it happened when I was roughly around 2 to 3 years old. But I remember it so vividly, and I know this was a real thing that happened. When I was about that age, I used to sneak down the stairs at nighttime and pilfer in the refrigerator. And my choice of little snack was butter. I would eat all the sticks of butter in the house, and my mom would get so cross. But I used to slide down the banister because every time that I would try to walk down it, the stairs, I would fall, and we had this big heater at the end of the steps. And I'll tell my mom sometimes that they used to get mad at me for sliding down the banister because they were afraid I'd hit the newel post and hurt myself. But I would tell them, you guys made me walk down the steps, and literally every time I would fall down the steps and hit my head on that heater. So in my head, constantly it goes, bang. And that's actually true. But this one night I slid down the banister, and right before I hit that newel post, and I knew where the newel post was, and it was a little bump, but it wasn't as bad as falling down those steps. A hand stopped me. It stopped me right before I hit that newel post on my back, and I looked over immediately, and there was this man standing there beside me, and I was really young and impressionable, obviously, so I had no idea what this guy's actual purpose or where he came. Like, he was not supposed to be there. He was definitely a stranger, but I felt no fear whatsoever. But he touched me, right? That was the first experience, was his hand touching my back.
Wow.
Yeah. I can stop there for a second, and you can, elaborate just on that part before we go forward as to what he said or what happened very quickly afterwards. So he touched me, I stopped, I looked over at him, and now we're looking eye to eye.
That's amazing, because I've heard of similar accounts where people are stopped by invisible hands or forces, but it's not super common for them to always see whatever it was that stopped them from having
I felt that hand on my back, James. Like, I felt a hand before I even saw him.
Right. That is amazing. So that's an amazing thing in and of itself for you to have felt and then also seen this figure, because a lot of times when people have that experience where they're saved, they don't see anything. They just get rescued or whatever, or stopped from being hurt, and then it's over. So, but yeah, please continue as you will.
Okay, so I immediately looked to my left. I was sliding down our stairs, and stairs would have been to my right, and this hand touches me. I look over, and I'm looking maybe just inches. And in my mind, the first thing that struck me with that hand, I mean, I can't really say what it is, but it's so crazy that I felt like it's almost like I can envision the hand on my back right now, because I saw it so vividly. There was a hand on my back, and it felt like something I'd never felt before. And immediately I was not anxious. I was not upset. I was not worried. When I looked over at this thing, and I'm looking at basically this monster, and I'm wondering to myself, 2-3-year-old self, is this serious? Like, this is really a thing? And I questioned, I think for a moment, was I dreaming? But I knew it wasn't a dream. I do this all the time. And this figure looking at me, as I described the other night, was kind of grotesque. Like, it almost, I can't really say if it looked wet or if it looked moist or something like that, but it looked burned almost, like it disfigured, and it spoke with this crackle that almost sounded like it was through a filter, almost like a water filter, really. So I wondered, was it a drowned person, and their disfigurement was the overinflation from the water saturation, or was this a burn victim? I couldn't tell, but the voice sounded crackly, like speaking in from underwater almost. I don't know if you've ever seen the Stephen King Creep Show, where Leslie Nielsen plays a character and he drowns a guy, but the guy comes back and they speak in this kind of otherworldly voice. Like it almost sounded like that, but raspy and serious. And he said, "You know what you're doing is wrong." Almost right away, you know what you're doing is wrong. So now, you shouldn't be sneaking down here in the middle of the night and eating all the butter. They knew exactly what I was going to do. It said, "Now why don't you go back off the bed and be a good boy?" And it got me off the banister, set me on the steps saying that, and then I walked off back up them steps and kept looking back, and he was just standing there, just as hollow and empty, and just waiting for me to go ahead and do my due diligence. He was making sure I went off to bed, and I never felt any fear. I felt almost like ashamed, like I'd been caught, or like somebody called my bluff, and I was just thankful that it wasn't this screaming, like, "You get off the banister, I've told you 1,000 times, you're going to kill yourself," or, "Oh, you've eaten all the butter," and stuff like that. I never felt that kind of presence before.
That's amazing, because that means that were they there watching and you just never saw them, or did they go into did they see into your mind to know that's what you were doing? There's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, well, the way he said it and the way I felt in the moment, it's almost like I guess you could say he was in my mind, or maybe just knew my habits. Maybe he was a spirit in the house all the time and saw, what I did and decided tonight was the night to set things right, or I don't know. But I knew when he said what he said that it's not like I felt like it was being drawn out of me. It was just like he knew.
Yeah.
It's like, I know what you're on about. Okay, you can't pull the wool over my eyes because I don't have any. And that was, yeah, he didn't say that, but that's how it was.
Right. That's amazing, though. Yeah.
I asked my mother once when we were in that house, did I ever have any imaginary friends or anything like that? She said I did. She couldn't recall much about that. So I wonder if I maybe saw anything else in the house that I don't recollect, but that was such a moving experience that I've never forgotten it, ever.
Yeah, I can understand that. That is really amazing that you had that experience. Yeah, I wonder with that figure, I almost wonder if they were, and this is going into more detail of them and why they appear the way they did, is if there was a fire and they went into water to put themselves out. That's sort of where my mind goes with that, but obviously I don't know.
Yeah, I can't recollect well enough to say, definitively like how they seem disfigured. In my mind, it's just kind of a blob person really now, but at the time, I remember, seeing plenty of like this person had been injured some kind of way. And as I said, the house was pretty old. It dated back before the Civil War. There had been, some artifacts and things like that found by my father. So I know, it had been an area where soldiers had been, but it also is just where I live. We have some of the oldest records in our courthouse in the country. Like we were essentially one of the first areas that were settled in America by Europeans. So there's been a lot of history where that house is, but that presence didn't feel so old that it was unrelatable, and it didn't speak in a way that seemed unfashionable, but definitely a little more astute, very distinguished. Not like a commonplace now. More like a father figure from back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
And you made a good point there. What if what if there's an old well out back somewhere with some bones in it or something? Who knows?
Yeah. It's hard to know. I mean, that's the thing. And unless they decide to tell you anything else, there's no way to know.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's interesting to me is there was no. It's almost like I said, it's almost like that person was just there all the time watching. Like maybe it's their house and they are content to stay, or maybe yeah. It's so hard to say because from everything that I can recollect and what I'm describing to you here, I would, if they were able to connect with me that much, like I would have expected more. From them, maybe a scare tactic if they were negative, or a longing for help, or some kind of, hey, this is why I'm here. But legitimately, like, it just seemed like a presence that had always been there, and I felt nothing of fear from it, so I didn't question it anymore. And I don't know if I ever saw it again or thought about it again, except for remembering it in my mind. I never harped on it at that time. It was almost like a dream. Like it was a present thing, but it didn't hinder my reality. Like now as an adult, when I contemplate these kind of things and I try to remember as much as I can about past experiences, it's been stuck in there as vividly as it is since, at the very least, my early 20s or maybe late teens, and when I really started to actively think about those kind of things and try to recollect anything that may have got me to wherever I was at the time when I started questioning. I've had tumultuous happenings in my life, and I've had to step back and go, why am I in my brain? Why am I like this? What's happened to me?
Right.
But
I have
especially these
a
connections.
yeah. I have I'm going to invite someone else here on real quick to they have something they want to add. So you're welcome to stay there, and then we'll go from there.
Great.
Okay. And we'll see how this works. And hopefully, Sonia, you'll be able to join us. And looks like you are muted, Sonia. So.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, you're all good.
Oh, okay. The latest novel I just read had to do with a similar thing that what you guys were just talking about. There was a woman whose husband was a serial killer, and she found out that he had killed several people. So she put antihistamine into his wine and then drowned him in this lake. It's called Lake Green. And his soul, since he was evil, since he was a serial killer, the soul got kept in the lake even after his body was taken out and was scattered across the lake. But that soul stayed there, and then anyone who died in the lake, he could take their body over. And it was, I don't know what you guys were just talking about. It seemed to be pretty close to that novel, even though it's really not exactly that novel. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's amazing how fiction can take ideas, and because I've heard of people seeing apparitions of people that have passed away by drowning, unfortunately, where they appear wet. They appear like they're soaking wet. They appear like they are, even in some cases, decaying. And and of course, I've heard of people appearing with whatever, not just drowning, but just whatever wounds that killed them. I've heard of them appearing with those as well. So yeah, I think there's fiction definitely takes a lot, I think, from reality, whether the authors mean to all the time or not. There's just those ideas of what might happen. So yeah.
In this particular book, you guys all should read it. It's like a great book. But it's basically a soul that's in existence that doesn't pass over. It just sits there. and then takes over the bodies of the people, and then just becomes, it's not necessarily a demon, but it's sort of a demon. And
Right.
so, like, an alien, but not necessarily an alien.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, read that book. It's great. It's a great shit. It's a great book. So, House Across the Lake, Riley, and it's about Lake Green. I think you guys will love it.
Sounds good. Thank you for sharing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's really amazing. But yeah, there's so many accounts of people seeing, apparitions with, again, I'm not going to be too graphic about what they've seen, but just people that appear to have wounds on them from being from gunshot wounds to all kinds of unfortunate things. And I've even read accounts, I've shared one where sometimes they'll appear one way, these apparitions will appear one way, and then when they realize they've been seen, they in some cases they have the ability to make themselves look normal again. And so, of course, the question to me is, how does that work? Is their new natural state the look with the injuries, or is that something a choice they make or not? And I have no idea.
Yeah, right. Like maybe it's just a coping mechanism that comes with that stasis.
Yeah, I think there can be that. I think there can also be. I think it can take. Who knows how long it takes the consciousness or the soul or whatever of someone to realize that they have passed.
Right.
And that could explain in some cases why they appear that way as well.
By certain belief systems, we like to consider that at the moment of death, somebody's no longer among the living. They're not cognizant. Their life essence is gone. That they're dead, and that's what we go on. But inherently, it's just not true. I mean, all the pieces of yourself have to break down over time, and we do things in America that make sure that person's going to basically stay preserved for a good bit of time. We make it law, we make it, and it's all well and good to stop disease and things from spreading, but the natural course is that body's not going to break down for a very long time and be able to become something else, which is what all the things are supposed to do. They break down, they become something else. I mean, you and I, the material that we're made of, it had to have been something else before it was us once upon a time, because we can't create matter, so it all gets recycled. But when it comes to breaking down the body after death, all those little parts of yourself are still alive until they're totally decomposed to dust again. And even still, they're alive because they're going to become something else. They have to carry off little bits of energy with them somewhere, right?
Right.
So we're not
Yeah.
dead until, not fully, the body is not dead and deceased. In certain cultures, they believe after about 40 days or so, like you're probably gone from here.
Right. And yeah, and I think unless a spirit decides to take in energy from the world around them after they have their body is gone, or they're not attached to anymore, unless they do that, then I think that can explain in some cases why we don't see spirits everywhere all the time from ancient history.
Yeah.
They don't all stay around.
Right.
So
I feel personally that the other side of reality, this is just my personal belief, the other side of reality in here, everything is tangible and has form and is distinctly individualized. But I believe that this is all just one thing. You and I are the same person, but it's great that we get to, be the beings here that can talk like this and think maybe we're individuals. But I honestly, James, just believe this is all just one big thing. And on the other side of the coin, it's all just obviously one thing. And you might get to that place or that stasis, and if you were really in the world and everything had no form and you were just an energy that was cognizant, and you would either feel like nothing has form here, nothing's real, nothing's tangible, this is hell. Or you would be really happy to be a part of the all again, and you are home and where you're supposed to be. So that would be heaven. So I just believe like our energy transitions and goes back to a source of negative and positive, and then gets redistributed where it needs to go to charge things here in the physical. That's my personal belief. So if you leave here and you feel sour about living life and not really were one with all this, you might find yourself in a hell stasis. If you were cool and you transition out, you might find yourself in heaven. And some people believe in reincarnation. They say if you go into that hell stasis, it might take you a very long time to reconfigure your mind where you can find your way back into a body. Whereas if you go into heaven stasis, it might not take you very long to, maybe a month, maybe a day, who knows, but you might find some place to go settle back into relatively quickly. I don't know about reincarnation of the energy and us being still ourselves or being something of ourselves, but there might be something to it. I distinctly believe, though, that the energy house goes somewhere and then, gets redistributed. And I would venture to say that if that's true, the energy inside of us while we're here, we either charge it and grow it in a more negative or positive fashion. So when we transition, um, we're not able to go back into the earth and be a blade of grass. We've got our energy so large that it has to go into a cell big enough to hold it. So we'll probably come back as a person. But sometimes I believe you come back in the opposite of the situation in which you would either thrive in, or the opposite of your nature, so that you can balance out that situation. Sometimes I believe that happens.
Yeah, and what amazes me too is I've read accounts of people who have had experiences with apparitions of people that used to live in a certain place, but they're not the way you would see in Hollywood. They're not in any kind of pain or danger, or they seem happy to be there,
Yeah,
and because it was their home at one point, or in some cases it was the place where they worked, and
right.
they're not in any kind of trouble at all. They're really just happy to be there, and they like that place so much, or love that place so much, where I wonder if that can be their own version of an afterlife, just in the location that they have such strong ties to. And not to say that they stay there forever, but I mean, I could see them staying there for as long as as they want to remember the place.
Sure. Or maybe just as well if um, I believe these things personally, but I borrow them from other religions. When we're here, we touch a lot of things and we own a lot of things and we share ourselves with a lot of people. And if we spread that really thin, it can bother our regular lives in life. But when we die, if we've spread ourselves so thin haphazardly, we may have put a piece of ourselves, left a piece of ourselves behind. And when you leave, it might be hard to gather up all those pieces and transition. Or if you feel so strongly about something and you're kind of confused and not ready to, go on and do the next thing, then you might get stuck here because of a feeling. Like you said, they might feel so strongly about their home. And if they don't know where to go afterwards, maybe they don't know they're gone, they might just hang around. Or it might even be that they do it because of the fear. They don't want to go on, so they stay where they're comfortable, and so it could still be like a heaven or hell feeling. And maybe that's why some apparitions appear negative and some appear positive, because they either feel they're frustrated or they're content. Like this guy, he seemed grotesque in appearance, but his presence was fine, and I felt like like I said, he'd been there all the time in a way. So maybe it was just his home, and he was just looking out for me because I was a misguided little boy that he felt like he could do something good for.
Yeah, I think there's I think partly because of Hollywood and just pop culture and all that. Anytime anything looks different from a regular person, there's this idea that we should automatically be afraid of it, and I don't think that's always the case. I think we should always sort of go with what our feeling is about these experiences when we have them. Not so much to uh, just engage with everything that we encounter and try to have those experiences all the time, but just observe and go with what you feel. And if you don't feel anything negative, and if it feels fine, then just allow the experience to happen as it's going to, and then remember that, and just use that as you need to for your own sort of processing of it and moving on with life.
Yeah, I've had, like I said, a lot of different types of experiences. Never one with an entity like that. I've never seen anything I'm gonna say is otherworldly. I'm never gonna say I've seen any aliens or UFOs or any of that kind of stuff. But I've felt a lot of energies. I have seen a lot of visions. That's happened to me several times in my life where I actually have an entire vision happening in waking life that is just as real as anything. And this is one of the few times I've ever had an experience with another being, especially having physical contact with it. And so, I've wondered if like you say, it's something you could maybe try to do. If you tried to do it all the time, you might be able to tap into those things more often. But like I was saying on Mike's show the other night, I have always felt some sort of I don't know if it's an ability or just tapped into something, because there's a lot of information that I understand inherently before I get the information, or I just have these feelings and I have those kind of experiences. So I know I could be tapped in a little tighter, but if I'm not gonna practice it so wholeheartedly that I'm really trying to master, I'm not trying to abuse these things, and I want to hone these skills so that I use them in the proper capacity and not just for my own pleasure. I knew I wasn't going to dedicate my life to that. I knew I would just be a regular guy doing regular stuff. So I don't say I ignore them. I do what you say. When they happen, I just allow them to happen. I read it how I read it. I use it how I use it, but I don't dwell on them or try to, feel but so much about it, because it'll only confound me and I won't be able to really get much from it. So it's almost like a dream when those things happen. It's not that I feel like, oh man, that was a dream and I was sleeping and I know I was totally safe and crazy. It's like when it happens in reality, it's like, well, that was just like a dream, but I know that happened. So that explains some things and asks a whole bunch more questions, but I'm just going to look the other way and let that have been an experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been asked before on other shows that I've been a guest on. Oh, you've had a lot of experiences. Have you ever thought about trying to tap into that and have them all the time? And I always say, well, yes, but no, I'm not going to do that, because half the time they wear me out. I get tired. I mean, and so I don't need that. I can get, my eyes always wear me out enough just on their own as it is. I don't need to be adding to that all the time by trying to have an experience, some kind of
Right.
weird
And,
experience
and you're right too. I'll
every day.
agree. Like they're draining, these kind of
Yeah,
things.
even the positive ones. I mean, they can still be
Right.
draining.
It's like exercise. Like if you've had a really heavy exercise and you're all pumped up, but then ooh, it took the wind out of your sails. You ain't got but so much pump in you.
Yeah, definitely.
Or like you've had a really exciting day, everything was wonderful, but then at the end you're just like, I am pooped.
Oh yes. Yeah, I
So
always
that's
say
that's how I feel about those. Every time they happen, it's like, wow, that was something, but that took a lot out of me.
yes. Yeah, I always say, any kind of, whenever I go to a family gathering, I'm very lucky. I'm close with my family, and they're always amazing things, but they always wear me out when I get done with them. So,
Yeah,
and
it's almost just like too much excitement versus
yeah,
like too much fear. You get so frustrated with fear, or if you're upset, like if you've cried and cried and cried all day, and then you finally are done, you really feel exhausted.
yes, definitely. Well, if there's anything else you'd like to share, you're welcome to. But if not, we can close out. So it's up to you.
Um, no, I guess on that experience, I can't really um, think of too much else that I would say is pertinent or would expand on it any, unless there's other questions that guests or yourself have. Um, no, man, I really appreciate you speaking with me outside of the audience, and I hope that we can do this again. So thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you for being here. And yeah, we were looking at having Ricky on here earlier, but he has his own show tonight, so he had to head out, which is totally fine. And yeah, so thank you everyone for being here as well. And I think that's going to do it for tonight. So again, thank you, Joey, and I will talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Everybody have a great night. Peace.
And that'll do it for tonight. Everyone take care. And I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. And that'll be our Saturday show. So looking forward to that, having Jen the Arcane Observer back on again. So everyone take care. I'll talk to you next time on Salsido Paranormal.